The morning sun cast long shadows across the broken streets of Geneva. 3 months had passed since the sky turned red with alien ships. 3 months since the world ended. Elena Vasquez pressed her back against the cold concrete wall and listened. The sound of Zephyrian patrol drones hummed in the distance like angry metal wasps. She counted the seconds between their passes. 15 minutes, always 15 minutes. The aliens were nothing if not precise. She pulled her worn jacket tighter and stepped carefully over the rubble. Glass crunched under her boots despite her efforts to stay quiet. The city looked like a giant had stepped on it. Buildings stood at impossible angles. Cars lay crushed like tin cans. What used to be the beautiful Lake Geneva now reflected the gray smoke that never seemed to clear from the sky. Elena remembered when this place buzzed with life. Scientists from around the world had worked here. She had been one of them, Dr. Elena Vasquez, quantum physicist, military engineer, and now the last person stupid enough to still fight back. The Zephyrian Empire had come without warning. Their ships appeared in Earth's sky on a Tuesday morning. No demands, no negotiations, just death from above. Their weapons turned mountains into glass. Their shields made every human weapon useless. In 6 days, every major city on Earth had fallen. In 6 weeks, every government had surrendered or been destroyed. The aliens called themselves the Invincible Conquerors. They had good reason. Elena had learned from intercepted communications that they had conquered over 200 worlds. Not one species had ever defeated them. Not one planet had ever made them retreat. Humans were just another entry in their list of victories. Elena reached the entrance to the old CERN facility. The massive underground laboratory had once been the pride of human science. Now it was her home. The aliens had bombed the surface buildings, but never bothered to check what lay beneath. Why would they? Humans were primitives. What could they possibly hide that would matter? She slipped through a crack in the wall and descended into darkness. Emergency lights flickered weakly along the tunnel walls. The air smelled of ozone and burned electronics. Most of the equipment had been damaged in the attacks, but Elena had spent 3 months fixing what she could. She was good at fixing things. It was what had kept her alive. The main laboratory stretched out before her like a cathedral of broken dreams. Massive machines that had once smashed particles together at incredible speeds now sat silent. Computer screens flickered with ghost images. Cables hung from the ceiling like dead snakes, but in the center of it all, Elena had built something new. The machine looked like nothing the world had ever seen. Part human technology, part salvaged alien equipment, and part pure desperation. She had welded, soldered, and jury-rigged her way to this moment. It was not pretty, but it might just work. Elena walked to her workbench and picked up a piece of Zephyrian armor. She had taken it from a dead soldier 3 weeks ago. The metal was unlike anything on Earth. It seemed to drink in light and give back only darkness. But Elena had learned its secrets. Every piece of technology had weaknesses. Even alien technology, the Zephyrians were strong, but they were also proud. They followed rules. Ancient warrior codes that governed how they fought and conquered. Elena had spent months studying their behavior patterns from hiding. They were predictable in their superiority. A sound echoed through the tunnels. Elena froze. Footsteps, human footsteps. A figure emerged from the shadows. An old man with a gray beard and clothes that had seen better days. Elena recognized him as Dr. Marcus Webb, a former colleague who now led one of the survivor camps hidden. In the Alps, Elena, Marcus said, his voice hoarse. The others sent me. We heard strange sounds coming from down here. Energy readings. The aliens are getting suspicious. Elena did not look up from her work. Let them be suspicious. They will. Investigate, they will find you. Find all of us. Good. Elena set down her tools and turned to face him. I want them to find me. Marcus stared at her like she had lost her mind. Maybe she had. 3 months of living underground and planning the impossible could do that to a person. Elena, you cannot. Fight them, no one can fight them. They have ships that can destroy planets, weapons that turn matter into energy, shields that nothing can penetrate. They have never faced a human who refuses to stay down. Elena walked to her machine and placed her hand on its surface. The metal was warm to the touch. Power hummed through its circuits like a heartbeat. "What is that thing?" Marcus asked. "Hope," Elena said simply. She turned to face him fully. Her eyes held a fire that had not been there 3 months ago. "Marcus, I need you to send a message to every survivor camp. Every hidden settlement. Every human still breathing on this planet." "What message?" "Tell them that tomorrow everything changes. Tell them that one human is going to challenge the entire Zephyrian fleet to single combat." Marcus stepped backward. "That is suicide." "Maybe, but it is also the only chance we have." Elena walked closer to him. "Their warrior code allows for a final challenge from any conquered species. If I win, they have to leave Earth forever. And if you lose? Then humanity dies fighting instead of kneeling." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Outside, the patrol drones continued their endless circuits. The world continued to burn. But down in the darkness, something new was being born. "Elena, even if their code allows it, you are just one person. They have thousands of soldiers, ships, technology we cannot even understand." Elena smiled for the first time in months. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had stared into the abyss and decided to stare back. "Marcus, they have conquered 200 worlds because they think like conquerors. They see strength in numbers, power in technology, victory in overwhelming force." She gestured to her machine. "But they have never met a species that fights with pure human stubbornness." She walked to a wall covered in papers, diagrams, and alien technology fragments. 3 months of planning, 3 months of learning, 3 months of refusing to give up. They expect us to fight like every other species they have conquered. Stand in neat lines, use conventional weapons, follow the rules of civilized warfare. Elena picked up a piece of twisted metal that had once been part of a Zephyrian weapon. "But humans do not fight fair when everything we love is at stake." Marcus looked around the laboratory, at the strange machine, at the walls covered in impossible plans, at the woman who had once been a respected scientist and was now something else entirely. "What do you need me to do?" he asked finally. Elena turned back to her machine, her life's work, her gift to a dying world. "Spread the word. In 72 hours, one human is going to show the galaxy what we are really made of." As Marcus disappeared back into the tunnels, Elena returned to her work. Outside, the alien ships continued their patrols. The occupation continued. The slow death of humanity ground on. But in the depths of a ruined laboratory, a woman who had lost everything was building something that had never existed before. Not just a weapon, not just a machine, a chance, the last chance Earth would ever have. Elena stood at the edge of the crater that had once been downtown Geneva. The Zephyrian command center rose from the destruction like a black crystal mountain. Their ships floated above it in perfect formation, casting shadows that never moved. She took a deep breath and started walking. Her footsteps echoed off the melted concrete. Every step brought her closer to what everyone would call madness. But Elena had moved beyond caring what anyone called anything. She had work to do. The alien guards saw her coming from a mile away. They did not move to stop her. Why would they? She was just one human walking alone across open ground. No weapons visible. No threat worth acknowledging. Elena kept walking. The command center's entrance was a tunnel of smooth black metal that seemed to absorb light. Guards in powered armor stood on either side. Their faces were hidden behind helmets that glowed with soft blue light. They were twice the size of any human, with 4 arms and skin like polished stone. One of them spoke in perfect English. The aliens had learned human languages within days of arriving. They were efficient that way. "Human, state your purpose." Elena stopped directly in front of them. She looked up at their towering forms and felt no fear. Fear was a luxury she had abandoned months ago. "I am Dr. Elena Vasquez, representative of the human species." I demand an audience with your Supreme Commander to issue a formal challenge under the ancient warrior codes of the Zephyrian Empire. The guards exchanged glances. Elena could not see their faces, but she knew confusion when she saw it. They spoke to each other in their own language, a series of clicks and whistles that sounded like breaking glass. One guard activated a communication device on his wrist. More clicking and whistling, then silence. You will wait, the guard said finally. Elena waited. She stood perfectly still in the entrance tunnel while alien soldiers walked past her. Some stared, others ignored her completely. She was nothing to them, less than nothing. A curiosity at best. 20 minutes passed before the guards received new orders. You will follow, one said. Make no sudden movements, touch nothing. They led her through corridors that hurt to look at. The walls seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. The floor felt solid but looked like deep water. Everything about Zephyrian architecture was designed to make other species feel small and lost. Elena walked with her head high. The command chamber was vast. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above, while the floor spread out like a football field. Holographic displays showed views of Earth from space, troop movements, resource extraction operations. The systematic dismantling of human civilization, reduced to glowing charts and numbers. At the center of it all sat Supreme Commander Vexstar. He was larger than the guards, with 6 arms instead of 4 and skin that shifted color like oil on water. His throne was carved from a single piece of crystal that seemed to contain trapped lightning. When he moved, the air around him crackled with energy. Dozens of other Zephyrian officers filled the chamber. They stopped their work to stare at the small human who had walked uninvited into their sanctuary. So, Vexstar said, his voice like grinding stone, the primitive wishes to speak. Elena walked forward until she stood at the base of his throne. She tilted her head back to meet his gaze. His eyes were like looking into the heart of a star. I invoke the right of final challenge as granted under the warrior codes of Zephyr. I challenge your entire fleet to single combat, terms to be set by the challenged party as tradition demands. The chamber fell completely silent, then Vexstar began to laugh. It was not a pleasant sound. It echoed off the walls like breaking metal. Soon other officers joined in. The laughter filled the vast space until Elena felt like she was standing inside a thunderstorm. You, Vexstar said when the laughter died down, challenge us? One primitive against the might of the Invincible Conquerors. That is correct, Vexstar leaned forward in his throne. Human, do you understand what you are asking? The right of final challenge has not been invoked in over 1,000 years. The last species that tried it was the Kethmori of Proxima 7. Their champion lasted exactly 14 seconds. Elena did not blink. I understand perfectly. You understand that. If you lose, your species accepts eternal servitude without resistance? That every human becomes a slave forever. I understand. And if by some impossible chance you win, we abandon this world and never return. Those are the traditional terms, yes. Vexstar studied her for a long moment. His officers whispered among themselves in their clicking language. Elena caught fragments of meaning. They were discussing whether to simply kill her now or play along with what they saw as an amusing game. Very well, Vexstar said finally. I accept your challenge. You have 72 standard hours to prepare. Choose your champion. Elena smiled. It was the same smile she had shown Marcus in the laboratory. I am my champion. This caused another round of laughter, shorter but more cruel than the first. You? Vexstar's voice carried genuine amusement. A small, soft creature with no natural weapons, no armor, no special abilities. Me, Vexstar stood from his throne. He was easily 3 times Elena's height and probably 10 times her weight. When he moved, servos in his armor whined with power. Human, I have conquered 217 worlds. I have personally killed the champions of 43 species. My weapons can destroy mountains. My armor can withstand the heat of dying stars. He gestured to the holographic displays around them. Your entire planet could not stop us. What? Makes you think one female of your species can succeed where armies failed. Elena looked around the command chamber. At the displays showing Earth's destruction. At the officers who saw her as nothing more than entertainment. At the Supreme Commander who had turned her world into another trophy. Because, she said quietly, you have never fought someone with nothing left to lose. The words carried in the vast space. For just a moment, the laughter stopped. Vexstar sat back down. You have spirit, Primitive. I respect that. Very well. In 72 hours, you will face our champion in the combat arena. You may use any weapon you can carry, any armor you can wear, any technology your species possesses. And the combat will be broadcast across the galaxy, as tradition demands. Every conquered species will watch. They will see what happens to those who resist the Zephyrian Empire. Elena nodded. Perfect. She turned to leave, then stopped. Commander Vexstar, may I ask a question? Speak. In all your conquests, all your victories, have you ever faced an enemy that refused to surrender even when defeat was certain? Vexstar was quiet for a moment. No, he said finally. The wise know when they are beaten? Elena's smile grew wider. Then you have never met a human before. She walked out of the command chamber with the same steady pace she had used to enter. Behind her, the Zephyrian officers watched in puzzled silence. They had conquered galaxies, but they had never encountered anything quite like this strange, defiant creature. As Elena reached the tunnel entrance, she heard Vexstar speaking to his officers in their own language. She understood enough now, too. Catch the meaning. Prepare the arena. Make sure the viewing systems work perfectly. The galaxy will want to see this farce. Elena stepped back into the ruined city. The Zephyrian ships still floated overhead. The occupation continued. Nothing had changed, but something was different now. Word would spread, not just among humans, but across the galaxy. For the first time in 1,000 years, someone had invoked the right of final challenge. Elena began the long walk back to her laboratory. She had 72 hours to get ready for the impossible. She had 72 hours to show the universe what humans were really made of. Behind her, alien guards spoke into their communicators. The news was already traveling at light speed to every corner of the galaxy. The primitives of Earth had done something unprecedented. They had refused to stay down. Elena descended into the CERN facility as alarms echoed across Geneva. The Zephyrians were broadcasting news of the challenge on every communication channel. By now, every surviving human on Earth would know what she had done. She expected to find the laboratory empty. Instead, she found 20 people waiting for her. Marcus stood near her workbench, along with survivors she recognized from various camps. A young engineer named David Kim, Sarah Chun, a former military medic, old Professor Walsh from the physics department. People who should have been hiding were standing in her secret laboratory, staring at her machine. You actually did it, Sarah sighed. Her voice carried a mixture of awe and terror. You really challenged them. Elena walked past them to her machine. 70 hours left. Not nearly enough time, but it would have to be enough. You should not be here, Elena said, checking. Power connections. When I lose, they will hunt down everyone who helped me. When you lose? David stepped forward. He was barely 25, too young to remember a world without war. Elena, what if you win? Elena paused in her work. She had spent so much time planning for the fight that she had barely considered victory. If I win, humanity gets to live free. Then we help, Marcus said firmly. Tell us what you need. Elena looked around at their faces. 3 months of hiding had made them all thin and hard, but their eyes still held hope. She had forgotten what hope looked like. You cannot help me fight, Elena said. The challenge is single combat. If anyone else interferes, humanity forfeits. But we can help you prepare, Sarah said. We can help you build whatever that thing is. Elena considered this. The warrior codes were specific about the challenge itself, but said nothing about preparation. All right. But first you need to understand what we are really doing here. She activated her machine. Lights raced along its surface like trapped lightning. the air filled with a low humming sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "This is not just a weapon," Elena said. "It is a statement." She walked to her wall of diagrams and pulled down a large sheet. On it was a detailed map of Geneva, marked with symbols and calculations. The Zephyrians expect single combat in their arena. Formal rules, ancient traditions. 2 fighters with weapons facing each other until one dies. Elena traced lines on the map with her finger. "They have never lost because they always fight on their terms, so we change the terms?" David asked. "We ignore the terms completely." Elena smiled that dangerous smile again. "David, what do you know about guerrilla warfare?" The young engineer looked confused. "Fighting from hiding? Using terrain advantages?" "Exactly." "Sarah, what is the first rule of military medicine?" "Adapt, improvise, overcome," Sarah answered immediately. "And Professor Walsh, what is the most important principle in physics?" The old man straightened his shoulders. "For every action there is an equal and opposite reaction," Elena nodded. "The Zephyrians are about to learn that humans do not follow anyone else's rules. We make our own." She spread more papers across her workbench. Schematics of alien technology mixed with human engineering. Chemical formulas written in 3 different languages. Maps of the city's underground tunnel system. "They think this is about honor and tradition. But for us, this is about survival. And humans are very good at surviving." Elena picked up a small device that looked like a combination of human electronics and alien crystal. "I have spent 3 months learning their weaknesses. They have many." Marcus examined the device. "What does it do?" "Zephyrian shields work on a specific energy frequency. This device disrupts that frequency for exactly 2.3 seconds. Not long, but long enough." Elena showed them more inventions. Explosives made from alien power cells and human chemicals. Smoke grenades that interfered with Zephyrian visual systems. Devices that could jam their communications for short periods. "You built all this in 3 months?" Sarah asked, amazement in her voice. "Humans are good at building things," Elena said. "Especially when we are angry." She walked to another part of the laboratory where something large sat under a canvas cover. With one quick motion, she pulled the cover away. Underneath was a suit of armor unlike anything they had ever seen. It combined human engineering with alien technology in ways that should not have been possible. The metal seemed to shift and flow like liquid while remaining solid. Power cables ran through it like veins. At its heart was a power source that glowed with soft blue light. "My God," Professor Walsh whispered. "Elena, how did you build this?" Very carefully, Elena ran her hand along the armor's surface. "It is not just protection, it is a complete combat system. Enhanced strength, speed, reflexes, built-in weapons. And most importantly, it thinks differently than Zephyrian technology." David walked around the armor, studying its design. "This is not just engineering, this is art." "It is necessity," Elena corrected. "And it is our only chance." She began explaining how each system worked. The armor could amplify her natural movements while protecting her from energy weapons. The helmet contained sensors that could track multiple targets and predict movement patterns. The power system could run for hours or discharge everything at once for maximum impact. "But the most important feature," Elena said, touching a small panel on the chest, "is this." "What is it?" Marcus asked. "A recorder. Everything I see, everything I do, everything that happens in the arena will be broadcast not just to the Zephyrian Empire, but to every conquered world they have ever taken." Elena's eyes grew hard. "They want this to be a demonstration of their power." "Instead, it will be a lesson in human determination." The group worked through the night. David helped calibrate the armor systems. Sarah prepared medical supplies and emergency treatments. Professor Walsh ran calculations on energy outputs and shield frequencies. Marcus coordinated with other survivor camps, making sure everyone knew what was happening. As dawn approached, Elena told them the story they needed to hear. "The real story. 5 years ago I had a family," she said quietly. "A husband named Carlos, a daughter named Maria. She was 7 years old and wanted to be an astronaut when she grew up. The laboratory fell silent except for the humming of machines. They died in the first wave. Carlos was at his office when the plasma bombardment started. Maria was at school. Elena's voice remained steady, but her hands shook slightly. I spent 3 days digging through rubble looking for them. I found Carlos first, then Maria. Sarah reached out and touched Elena's shoulder, but Elena continued talking. That night I decided that the Zephyrians had made a mistake. They thought they could break humanity by taking everything we loved. But they did not understand that when you take everything from a human, you do not get a broken person. You get someone with nothing left to lose. She walked to her armor and began putting it on piece by piece. The systems activated automatically, creating a soft whining sound as they powered up. They call themselves the Invincible Conquerors, Elena said, her voice now amplified by the armor speakers. But they have never faced a mother who lost her child. They have never fought someone who carries the names of the dead into battle. The armor's helmet sealed with a soft hiss. Elena's voice now came from the speakers with a slight electronic echo. In 36 hours, I'm going to show them what happens when humans stop being civilized. Through the helmet's display, Elena could see readouts scrolling past. Power levels, weapon status, system diagnostics. Everything was green. Everything was ready. Elena, Marcus said softly, what if this does not work? What if you cannot win? Elena turned to face him. Through the helmet's visor, her eyes glowed. With the same light as our armor's power source? Then I will make sure they remember the price of conquering Earth. I will make them understand that some species cannot be broken, no matter how much force you use. She paused, checking her weapon systems one final time. And maybe, just maybe, other conquered worlds will remember that lesson too. Outside, the first Zephyrian patrols of the day began their rounds. The aliens went about their business with the confidence of absolute power. They had no idea that in 36 hours, everything would change. In the depths of a ruined laboratory, a human who had lost everything was preparing to teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. The arena appeared overnight in the center of Geneva. Zephyrian construction ships worked through the darkness, building a perfect circle of black metal 1 mile across. Stadium seating rose from the ground like growing crystal, designed to hold thousands of alien spectators. Elena watched from her hiding place in the ruins. The aliens expected her to arrive at the main entrance like a proper warrior. Instead, she was already inside the city, moving through tunnels and sewers she had mapped months ago. The challenge was set for noon. At 11:30, Elena emerged from a storm drain 6 blocks from the arena. Her armor gleamed in the sunlight, but she had covered it with mud and debris to break up its outline. She looked like a walking piece of the ruined city, the arena's energy. Barriers hummed to life as she approached. Zephyrian soldiers lined the perimeter, their weapons tracking her movement. Above, their ships hung in perfect formation, cameras recording everything for broadcast across the galaxy. Elena walked to the main gate where Vexstar waited with his officers. The Supreme Commander wore ceremonial armor that sparkled with embedded gems. His weapons could level buildings. His shields could stop artillery shells. Primitive, Vexstar said as Elena approached. You came. I admit, part of me thought you would run. Elena's helmet retracted, showing her face. Humans do not run from bullies. Vexstar laughed. Bold words. Are you ready to die for them? I was ready 3 months ago. The gate opened and Elena walked into the arena. The floor was smooth metal that reflected the sky like a mirror. Stadium seating surrounded her, filled with Zephyrian officers and officials. Cameras floated overhead like metal birds. At the center of the arena stood a raised platform where tradition said the combat would take place. Weapons racks held energy rifles and plasma swords. Everything was arranged according to ancient Zephyrian custom. Elena ignored all of it. Instead, she walked to the arena's edge and began placing small devices from her equipment belt. To the watching aliens, they looked like human trinkets. In reality, they were carefully designed pieces of her plan. What are you doing? Vexstar's voice boomed through speakers around the arena. The combat platform is in the center. Elena did not look up from her work. I did not agree to fight on your platform. The warrior codes demand proper combat on the designated field. Elena straightened and turned to face the thousands of watching aliens. Her voice carried clearly through the arena's sound system. The warrior codes say single combat until one side yields or dies. They say nothing about where that combat happens. She gestured to the entire arena. This is my field. Murmurs rippled through the alien crowd. This was not how challenges were supposed to work. Vexstar's 4 champions entered the arena through different gates. Each was twice Elena's size and armed with weapons that could cut through steel. Their armor glowed with protective energy fields. Very, well, primitive, Vexstar announced. Face our champions. Show the galaxy how quickly human defiance dies. The first champion approached Elena with confident strides. His plasma rifle charged with a high whining sound. He aimed carefully, preparing to end this quickly. Elena pressed a button on her wrist. The device she had planted near the arena wall exploded in a cloud of dense smoke. Not the kind that just blocked vision, but the kind that interfered with Zephyrian sensors and targeting systems. The champion fired blind into the smoke. His shot hit the arena wall, leaving a glowing crater in the metal. But Elena was no longer where he had aimed. She emerged from the smoke behind him, moving faster than her armor should have allowed. Her first strike hit the weak point she had, identified months ago, the joint where his helmet connected to his neck armor. The champion spun around, swinging his massive fist. Elena ducked under it and triggered another device. This one released a burst of electromagnetic energy that overloaded his armor systems for exactly 2.3 seconds. 2.3 seconds was enough. Elena's armor-enhanced punch caught the champion in the chest. He flew backward 10 feet and hit the arena wall hard enough to crack the metal. The crowd fell silent. The second champion attacked immediately, not waiting for his partner to recover. He moved with mechanical precision, following combat algorithms. Developed over centuries of warfare, Elena fought like no algorithm could predict. She used the arena's own architecture against him, bouncing off walls and using support beams as weapons. When he fired his energy rifle, she was already moving. When he swung his sword, she was somewhere else entirely, but Elena was not just running. Every movement served a purpose. Every evasion led her closer to devices she had planted. Every seemingly random direction change was part of a larger pattern. The third and fourth champions joined the battle. Elena was now facing 4 opponents simultaneously, each one capable of destroying a tank. The logical response would be to use superior firepower and coordination to overwhelm her. Elena had never been logical. She triggered more devices. Smoke bombs, electromagnetic pulses, and sonic disruptors activated in sequence around the arena. The perfectly coordinated champions found themselves fighting in chaos. Their sensors gave conflicting readings, their communications jammed, their targeting systems malfunctioned. Elena fought in the chaos, like she was born for it. She appeared from smoke clouds to strike and vanish again. She used the champion's own size against them, making them hit each other when they tried to hit her. She turned their coordination into confusion by constantly changing the rules of engagement, but the champions were learning. They began to adapt to her tactics. Their armor systems started compensating for her disruptions. Slowly they began to corner her. Elena had expected this. She triggered the final phase of her plan. Hidden charges around the arena floor detonated simultaneously. Not enough to hurt anyone, but enough to crack the smooth metal surface. What had been a perfect fighting platform became a landscape of broken ground, twisted metal, and debris. Now Elena was fighting on terrain that looked like her home city. Ruined, broken, but still dangerous, the first champion, recovered from his earlier fall, charged through the wreckage with his plasma sword raised. Elena waited until the last second, then triggered a device that created a localized magnetic field. The champion's metal armor became a prison. For 3 seconds he could not move as magnetic forces held him in place. Elena used those 3 seconds to remove his helmet and knock him unconscious with a precise strike. One down. The second champion tried to use his rifle from long range, staying back from Elena's traps. But Elena had planted devices all around the arena. She triggered a sonic disruptor behind him, shattering his concentration long enough to close the distance. Her armor's enhanced strength let her tear his rifle away and use it as a club. The weapon broke against his armor, but the impact stunned him long enough for Elena to find another weak point. 2 down. The remaining champions changed tactics. They stopped trying to use their superior technology and began fighting like Elena, using the terrain, moving unpredictably, adapting to each moment. This was exactly what Elena had hoped for. When aliens tried to fight like humans, humans won. Elena led them on a chase through the arena's wreckage. She climbed over debris, slid under twisted metal, and used every piece of broken ground to her advantage. The champions followed, but they were learning a hard lesson. Humans had been fighting in ruins for 3 months. Aliens had been fighting in perfect arenas for centuries. The third champion fell when Elena used a piece of arena wall as a springboard to deliver a flying kick that his armor could not absorb. The fourth tried to retreat to higher ground, but Elena had planted devices there too. When the smoke cleared, Elena stood alone in the center of the ruined arena. 4 champions lay unconscious around her. Her armor was damaged, but still functional. She was breathing hard, but still standing. The crowd of thousands sat in absolute silence. Elena looked up at Vextar's viewing box. The Supreme Commander was staring at her with an expression she had never seen on an alien face before. Fear. Round 1 to the humans, Elena said into her helmet microphone, knowing her words were being broadcast across the galaxy. In viewing stations on 200 conquered worlds, entire populations watched a single human stand victorious over the Invincible Conquerors. The arena fell silent for exactly 30 seconds. Then Vextar rose from his viewing throne, his 6 arms spreading wide as energy crackled around his massive form. Enough games, primitive? His voice boomed across the arena. You wish to face the true power of the Zephyrian Empire? So be it. The Supreme Commander leaped from his platform, falling 50 feet to land in the arena with an impact that cracked the metal floor. His ceremonial armor transformed as he landed, weapons emerging from hidden compartments, shield generators activating with a sound like screaming wind. Elena backed away, checking her armor's power levels. 60% remaining. Her weapons were damaged. Her body ached from the previous fight. She was facing the being who had conquered 200 worlds personally. You fought well against my champions, Vextar said, advancing slowly. But they were children playing with toys. I am the storm that breaks planets. He raised one of his 6 arms and fired an energy beam that melted a hole through 3 feet of arena wall. The air itself seemed to burn where the beam passed. Elena dove behind a piece of wreckage as more energy beams carved through the air around her. Each shot had enough power to destroy a building. Vextar was not just bigger and stronger than his champions. He was in a completely different class. Tell me, human, Vextar called as he stalked closer. What did you hope to accomplish here? Did you think one primitive could defeat the might of an empire? Elena triggered another smoke bomb, but Vextar's sensors cut through it like it was not there. His next shot passed so close to her head that her helmet systems registered heat damage. Your species is finished, Vextar continued. Even if you somehow killed me, which is impossible, my fleet would glass this planet. Every human would die. Your defiance means nothing. Elena rolled behind another piece of debris. Her power levels were dropping. Her weapons could barely scratch his armor. In a direct fight, she had no chance at all. So she stopped trying to fight directly. Elena activated her helmet's communication system and spoke clearly into the microphone. People of Earth, people of 200 conquered worlds, you are watching the end of one empire and the beginning of something new. Vextar paused, confused by her words. Elena stood up from behind her cover, making herself an easy target. Commander, you said my defiance means nothing, but you are wrong. My defiance means everything. She began walking toward him across the broken arena floor. Energy beams lanced past her, but she did not dodge. She did not run. She walked straight at the most powerful being in the galaxy with nothing but human determination. You want to know what I hope to accomplish? I will show you. Elena's armor began to glow brighter. Power readings on her display climbed past safe levels and kept climbing. She was overloading every system simultaneously. Vexstar realized what she was doing. You cannot. The explosion will kill you. Yes, Elena said simply. But it will also kill you. She was 10 feet away now, close enough to see the uncertainty in Vexstar's alien eyes. For the first time in his life, the Supreme Commander was facing someone who scared him. This is madness, Vexstar said, backing away. Surrender now and I will make your death quick. Elena laughed. It echoed strangely through her helmet speakers. Commander, you still do not understand. This was never about me living. This was about you learning what happens when you hurt a human's family. 5 feet away, her armor's power core was reaching critical levels. Warning alarms screamed inside her helmet. You see, Elena continued, still walking forward, humans have this thing called spite. When you push us too far, when you take everything we love, we stop caring about survival. We only care about making sure you pay the price. 3 feet away. Vexstar raised all 6 arms, every weapon charging simultaneously. But here is what you really do not understand, Elena said, and her voice carried across the arena to be heard by every alien present. I am not the last human defender. I am the first. She triggered the final device she had planted. Not in the arena. Not even in the city. Deep beneath the ruined CERN facility. Her machine activated. The device Elena had spent 3 months building was not a weapon. It was a transmitter. A quantum communicator capable of sending signals faster than light to every corner of the galaxy. As her armor's power core went critical, the transmitter sent out a simple message in every language known to exist. The message contained coordinates, tactical data, and proof that the Invincible Conquerors could be defeated, but most importantly, it contained Elena's final words. My name is Elena Vasquez of Earth. I lost my family to these invaders. Today, I stand for everyone who ever lost someone to the Zephyrian Empire. Today I prove that no species is invincible. Today the galaxy learns that resistance is not futile. The power core reached critical mass. Vexstar fired every weapon he had simultaneously. Energy beams that could shatter mountains converged on Elena's small form. Elena smiled and triggered the overload. The explosion lit up the sky over Geneva like a new sun being born. The arena vaporized instantly. The blast wave shattered windows 50 miles away and sent Zephyrian ships tumbling through the air like leaves in a hurricane. When the light faded and the dust settled, nothing remained of the arena except a perfect crater half a mile wide. At its center stood a small memorial that had somehow survived the blast. A simple metal plate with words burned into its surface by the explosion itself. Here stood Elena Vasquez, who proved that some things are worth dying for. But Elena's sacrifice had done more than just kill one supreme commander across the galaxy. On 200 conquered worlds, populations that had lived in slavery for generations received her transmission. They learned that the Invincible Conquerors had been defeated. They learned that resistance was possible on Kepler 442b. The Thackeray Uprising began 3 hours after Elena's broadcast. On Proxima Centauri C, the Veltar sabotaged their planet's mining operations. On Volf 1061c, the Morden attacked Zephyrian garrisons with weapons built from Elena's transmitted plans. The galaxy that had been silent for 1,000 years suddenly erupted in rebellion, but the greatest rebellion was happening on Earth itself. Marcus and the other survivors emerged from hiding to find Zephyrian forces in complete chaos. The loss of their supreme commander had shattered their command structure. Ships crashed as crews abandoned their posts. Soldiers threw down their weapons and fled. The humans did not let them escape, using the weapons and tactics Elena had developed. Survivor groups attacked Zephyrian positions across the globe. They moved like ghosts through ruined cities, striking From shadows and vanishing before reinforcements could arrive within a week, every major Zephyrion installation on Earth was destroyed or abandoned. The aliens who had conquered the planet in 6 days were driven off in 7, but Elena's greatest victory was not military. It was inspirational. Her final battle had been broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. Every conquered species had watched. One human stand alone against impossible odds and refuse to surrender. They had seen what determination could accomplish against overwhelming force. The message spread faster than Zephyrian ships could travel. Planet after planet rose in rebellion. The empire that had seemed invincible began to crumble from within. 3 months later, Marcus stood in the rebuilt CERN facility where Elena's journey had begun. The laboratory was now a memorial, but it was also a symbol. Scientists from across Earth were working to rebuild their world and reach out to other species fighting for freedom. A communication came in from the Kepler system. The factory had successfully liberated their homeworld and were offering to share technology with Earth. Similar messages arrived from dozens of other worlds. Marcus smiled as he read the reports. Elena had been right. Her defiance had not been meaningless. It had been the spark that lit a fire across the galaxy on Elena's memorial. Someone had added new words below her name. She taught the universe that humans do not kneel. Ever. The age of the Invincible Conquerors was over. The age of galactic freedom had begun, and it all started with one human who refused to stay down.